So, finally propped up the iPad again, and want to make a video because I like talking about things that interest me. Still not completely caught up on current events. I mean, geez, the last time I made a video, Tom Brady only had 6 Super Bowl rings. And besides, after being gone so long, how do I jump back in it? But one of the things I like is guns. And when I was making videos, I decided to do this. It's like, that's probably one of the things I would be talking about. But, well, a lot of weird, jacked up things going on in the world. And I usually talk about that. But I'm going to talk about guns. So, YouTube Universe and Rumble, as I'll put this on both. Since there's been a whole mess of new gun owners, and there's probably been a whole mess of videos for new gun owners, but I just want to talk about some basic gun terms so everybody is firearm literate. It's one of the things when I was a drill sergeant, I tried to teach privates so they knew more than just the basics. You see, a soldier, you should be firearms literate. So let's start with single and double action. This one's actually one of mine. The rest of these guys I had to borrow because I don't have everything, much to my chagrin. He who dies with the most guns wins. But this is a Ruger Valkyrie, old school Western style single action revolver. And in the interest, all these guys have been cleared, but in the interest of firearm etiquette, we're going to prove that they're all cleared. Single action, the trigger does one action, and that is release the hammer after it's been cocked. If the hammer's already forward, it won't do anything. It does one single action. Release the hammer. And that's why you see in these westerns, people fan the gun, you hold the trigger back, it'll just release the hammer on its own. So to simulate some, rapid fire, it'll fan the gun, which you can actually do with some practice. People say, oh, there's there's 45, this is a 45 long Colt, what they actually shot. It'd be all over, but you can, with some practice, control it. You run out of ammo fast, because it's only got 6 rounds. But that's a single action. Now, this is the Ruger Valkyrie, old Western style, and this is a more modern Smith & Wesson 6.86. Nice gun. I'm going to have to get one of these because this would make a good nightstand gun. And this is a 6.86 plus. It's got 7 rounds. When I borrowed this, I was like, dude, you've got 7 rounds in here. 7 chambers. Double action, though. All right, revolver. The trigger will do 2 things. It'll pull the hammer back and let it go. You can still fire it single action if you want. And there's reasons you'd want to do that, more accurate. Because when you're firing double action, you got to pull that trigger, and you can be doing this and shaking the gun as you're pulling it back. So if you want to be a little more accurate, pull the hammer back. Bam. Not a bad break, too. Nice gun. But that's the difference between single and double action. Those are revolvers. This is an automatic. It's a 1911. This is a pretty nice one. It's like a Kimber. It's a high-end one. It is cleared. Magazine's removed. It is an automatic. Now, your revolvers, even though double action may act like a semi-automatic in that you pull the trigger, it fires one shot, and you're ready to go ahead and just fire the next one. It's not an automatic. This is an automatic. Specifically semi-automatic. One pull of the trigger, you're going to get one bang. But the slide's going to come back. The action, when you fire it, it's going to make a slide come back. Eject the spent shell and automatically load the next one. That's why it's called automatic. It automatically loads the next chamber, ejecting the old spent one and loading the next one into the chamber automatically. Your pump action shotguns, your bolt action rifles, or your old lever action Western style rifles, all manually. You're manually doing something to load the next round. Eject the old spent shell and load the next one. Revolvers, you have to manually load each chamber. And even though, like I said, their double action revolver kind of acts like a semi-automatic. It's not, because you have manually loaded. It's just got multiple chambers. And when you're out, you have to manually load the chambers again. Manually eject the shells. the spent shells, boom, and manually load new ones. You can have speed loaders, but you're still manually loading the next round into the chambers. Automatics take care of that for you. External hammer, single action. It may act kind of like a double action because the slide is going to cock the hammer back, but when you fire it, the trigger is only releasing the hammer. The trigger is not going to cock the hammer again for you. So it's single action. The next evolution, this is a Springfield XDE, E for an external hammer. It's not like the striker fires. Again, we're going to have basic firearm etiquette to prove that this is cleared. But the hammer is double action. It's an automatic, but with the hammer forward, you squeeze the trigger, it will send that hammer back, cock it, and fire. Or you can fire it single action. And this, when I borrowed this, picked it up, I was like, man, that is like the nicest break I've ever felt on any handgun. And I've picked up quite a few, fired and dry fired a lot. Not everything in the world, but quite a few. I'm going to have to get one of these. This has got a 3.8 inch barrel. I might have to get the 3.3. I think they come in a shorter barrel. Anyway, I'm kind of a Springfield guy anyway. I like their XD lineup. But why would, if this is going to cock the hammer anyway, why would you care about having a double action? Well, probably, in my opinion, it's safer to carry it with the hammer forward. Right? Because you got that big long draw, just like on that revolver, you got that big long draw on that first shot if it's double action. Now, after it's fired, the slide's going to come back, cock the hammer, and you shoot in single action the rest of the time. This has a decocker, that's also safety. I'll push down on it, and it will safely decock the hammer. So you don't have to worry about setting off the next round that's in that chamber. So, a little additional safety when you're carrying it. You don't have to have that hairpin trigger. But then once you start firing, it does have that nice break. Because single action guns just have a nicer break than striker fires, which I'll talk about next. But also, in addition to what I feel is an additional safety feature or safety measure, that big long draw and that first big long pull, when you pull it out, there's no accidentally firing it. You've got to intentionally pull that trigger. But if you have a misfire, which admittedly is rare, especially with service ammunition, if you're out there shooting and you fire and it didn't strike that primer for whatever reason, you can just do this. And 90% of the time on a second strike, it's going to go off. If it's a single action, a striker fire, you're going to have to come up here, cock it again, eject that round, lose it, and take more time doing that action before we can fire again. Again, something that's not very common, but it has happened. I've had it happen. Practice ammunition, but maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe it's not a deal breaker for you for your striker fire guns. But something to consider. Then, striker fires. This is a Glock 17. I'm not really a big Glock guy. I mean, they're nice. There's some things I like about them. I won't get into all that. You know, if you're a Glock person, fine. I'm not a Glock hater. It's just I'm not a Glock guy. All right. So, once again, it is clear. Striker fire. It does not have an external hammer. Now, people who like striker fires, and I do like some striker fires, just prefer a double single. We'll say that it's not going to catch on anything, and that's true. Nothing's going to interfere with the action of that hammer, although that's very highly unlikely to happen. But maybe something could get in there. So, but it acts as a single action. You pull that trigger, you got to cock it again in order for it to go again. All right. Now, with that said, there are some new guns out there I've heard. Actually, good guy showed me, it was Taurus of all people, Taurus of all companies, and a striker fire that shoots like a double action. You can sit there and go click, 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 click with it. So you would get with that gun, I forget what the model number is, but there are, I guess there's a new thing coming out. You do get that second strike. And, interestingly enough, the grenade launcher that the Army uses, the M320, also striker fire, essentially. I mean, it doesn't have an external hammer, but you can do that. You can continue to fire and clip it because it's a little bit more likely you get a non-strike on a 40 millimeter grenade than something like this, a handgun. So point that out. Safeties. Glock doesn't put safeties on there. Now, the XDE does have a safety, but if you don't like safeties and you're like me and you think that they're obsolete, you just carry it without the safety on. But the thing is, with the 1911, you have to carry it unless you're stupid and carry on an empty chamber. You might as well just carry an empty gun, but it's not safety on. I wouldn't feel comfortable with carrying it. Hammer back and safety off. That's why I like double singles. But if you have a safety and you use it, you have to practice when you draw to take that safety off before you fire. Otherwise, you're going to have issues. Oh. Safety. But just because it does not have a mechanical safety on it doesn't mean that there aren't safety features built into the gun. Like this Glock, it's got a double trigger. You have to pull that trigger on the inside. You can't just brush this trigger on the side and have it go bang. That has to be pulled. And actually, the old 1911, and I like me some 1911 just because America, over 100-year-old, well over 100-year-old design. It's still relevant and popular. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna have to give it one. But safety off. This has got to be depressed on the back before it goes bang. So again, safety features. Just because there's not a safety on there doesn't mean that the weapon's not a safe weapon. All right, and this is what I like about the Springfield XDs. They have that double trigger like the Glock and the beaver tail like the 1911. So you have to have both of them in order for it to go bang. But the biggest safety is going to be the holster. You have a good, appropriate holster mated with the gun. It's not going to go off. It's going to cover the trigger. You're not going to be able to accidentally hit the trigger as you draw. Nothing's going to interfere with it. It's going to protect it. That's your safety. Once you draw, you want the gun to be hot. You don't want the safety on. So if you do it, like I said, if you got a safety, that's your thing. Make sure you train to take the safety off when you draw. Me, I'm not going to have the safety on. I'm not going to have a safety. My safety is this. Right? And that big long draw, that long pull on a double, if I'm carrying something like this. Like I said, I've got to get one of these. Especially now that I've actually handled it. So, the Army wanted a safety undergun. They haven't caught up. The Defense Department has not caught up with this concept. They want a safety. So when Glock, that's what I get for using an iPad and just propping it up. But when Glock put their hat in the ring for the competition to replace the crappy Beretta, they put a safety on the gun. Anyway, with that, I hope you learned something. Long guns, different story. M4s, M16s, AR-15, safety, because you don't have a holster for those. You might put it in a rifle boot or something if you're on an ATV hunting or something, but generally you're walking around. You don't have anything covering that trigger. So safety on a long gun does make sense. Not so much for handguns anymore. All right. Be excellent to each other. Sic Semper Tyrannis. Long live the Republic. God bless America. I'll see you some next time I get around to making a video.